Hello.
Hello,
Hi, everybody.
everyone.
That was exciting to start.
Yes, bit late,
Damn
but
it.
Minor technology fail.
Minor,
Yes.
minor StreamYard said I wasn't logged in kind of feel. But
Yeah.
welcome everyone. It's Thursday again. Richard, Karl, welcome.
Thank you.
It was a chaotic day, which kind of
Mhm.
matches the show of today. Um, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you if you're watching this later. Let's start with some updates on the past week. Karl, how has your week been?
Not too bad. Doing a lot of Azure Arc this last week. So Linux servers and Azure Arc and log analytics and custom text logs and all of that fun stuff. And a little bit of cloud native with Kubernetes and helping ensure that test environments deploy properly and fixing code that I wrote wrong. So it's been a good week so far.
And lots of redecorating. I see.
Yeah, well, not me at all. So brand new. I say brand new office space, same room, completely different look, completely different colors, and some awesome lights. Thank you, Richard.
Really cool lights.
Yeah. So yeah, it's very cool. Thanks to my wife Rebecca, who may or may not be watching, for redecorating this. She has a particular talent for this sort of stuff, and I'm not really allowed to do any DIY because I make a mess of it. So it's great to be in what feels like a completely new space. So it's awesome.
So is this one of your birthday gifts from her as well? Because this is your last session as a 39-year-old, if I remember right.
It is, sure is. Yep.
Oh, shots fired.
unless I can manage to be 39 for another year.
Would be nice.
I think we could pull it off, right?
Yeah.
You
why
still
not?
look 20, mate.
Yeah. With a hard paper round, Wesley, but appreciate the compliment anyway.
Yeah.
Richard, what have you been up to this week?
Lots of bicep infrastructure as code. Did AKS upgrade, so to version 126, which was quite nice because in Azure it actually stopped me doing an upgrade because I forgot to upgrade my KEDA, and the HPA was not compatible with the new version, so it actually stopped me before I could even do it, which was really nice to see. But apart from that, it's just been a lot of infrastructure as code again.
Well, that was a nice error message. The pre-flight check. It was very good. All right. Nice.
What about your week?
My week has been dealing with holiday season coming up. So
that's right. When the entire country of the Netherlands just goes on holiday at the same time, right?
Yeah, well, it's in zones. Let's say we have availability zones here in the Netherlands. We've got north, mid, and south. There's always 1 week in between when the holidays start, but last week, the last availability zone, or last part of the Netherlands, got to start their summer holidays, which means that everyone's going to jump on flights, drive their car somewhere to the southern of Europe, and enjoy themselves on a camping for 2 weeks. I'm not judging. Good luck with that. So then also colleagues take some time off, and you have to jump in here and there. That's basically been my past 2 weeks. Specific tech, yes, I've been doing some AKS as well for a customer, mainly deploying the bicep stuff, writing some Helm charts, and making sure they can go into production next week, which is well, it's fun, right? It's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Fun to do some tech here and there. And I really enjoy it. So that's been my week. And then obviously, lots of stuff happened. No, not that much. It was a bit of a quiet week in terms of news, but we're going to our cloud native news section anyway. So here we go.
Ooh.
All right, news. Karl, you start.
Sure. So this last week we have a public preview from Azure for App Gateway for containers. So that's replacing the App Gateway ingress controller functionality.
Yeah. AGIC is finally getting the last nail in its coffin, which is good to see. So this one is quite good because it uses Gateway API as well, and it can be all controlled from within the cluster or outside. So it's really good to see.
So it's pretty cool. I was reading that you can control it through manifest and YAML and all of that, as well as in infrastructure as code. So Very cool to see. So check out that link for a good overview. And leading on from that, at the same sort of time we have that was released, we had an article released for advanced load balancing scenarios using this app gateway for containers. So check out Dennis's post there. So it's really detailed and really interesting post. Have you had a chance to read that yet, Richard?
I've got partway through, but I need to get in front of a computer, reading it and trying it out at the same time.
Yeah.
I think there's so much good information inside it.
Yeah, I think the interesting piece is that this is going to support the gateway API as well, so not just ingress controllers, which, although App Gateway is a layer 7 HTTP load balancer and WAF and stuff, it opens it up for supporting other sorts of ports and protocols as well with the Gateway API, so it's pretty cool.
Is this going to be the fix for the daunting thing in the AGIC where it took ages to propagate changes, which really didn't match the Kubernetes experience? You want to change, you want to update your YAML, change needs to be there, and then App Gateway, well, was just out getting coffee and coming back to you when it was done propagating changes. This is very promising. This is very, very promising.
So yeah, it should be the fix for that issue. So I'm excited to see it and play with it, but I just haven't found the time yet. It's been a busy week.
Well, why just containers? Why just a new App Gateway for containers? We could do with the next version of App Gateway, right?
Well, we just got V2 App Gateway. So
that was ages ago.
It just went GA recently. So maybe this is going to be, maybe it will be used for other things, but it's got to start somewhere, and time will tell.
See what happens.
Best way to start is with containers, right?
Failing that, use front door, right?
Yes.
We do a lot of front door.
All right. Next up, Richard.
Kubeflow. So, Kubeflow is a project, and it's just been accepted into the CNCF at the incubator phase. So, if people don't know what Kubeflow is, it's a project dedicated to making deployment of machine learning workflows on Kubernetes simple, portable, and scalable by providing straightforward ways to deploy best-of-breed open source systems for ML to diverse infrastructure. I wasn't reading that, but I was reading that.
Tell me you're not reading that off the page.
No, it's quite good to see that more machine learning things are being accepted into the CNCF, and it's definitely a project to watch now. It's been accepted, and if you're working on machine learning, keep an eye on it.
Awesome.
Should give it a test drive.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Any other news? I think that was the news, right?
I think that's the news for this week. It's been a quiet enough week.
It's been, the other big news is that Twitter is no longer called Twitter.
I still call it Twitter.
Let's not
Did you know?
Let's not go there.
If you went to x.com / your Twitter handle, so like in my instance, pixel_robots, it would take me to my Twitter profile. And same for all of you. So he somehow has brought x.com. I wonder how much that cost.
I think he's owned x.com since the 90s. If you dig into it enough, his original thing before PayPal became a thing was X, and that's what he was trying to do. So without getting into too much of the detail, he's owned that domain for a while, I think.
That's cool.
But bring back Twitter. Proper Twitter, like before X.
I want to call it X Social rather than just X because it sounds nicer. X Social, but yeah.
I just sent you. What does it? DM call it? XDM. That's like the window manager in Linux, like 20 years ago. XDM.
Yeah, certainly. It sounds like it's a lot of people's X social media. So see what happens. See if he continues to. Funny dad joke. We'll see if it continues to get worse.
We're all so busy the whole week, but this is the stuff we read up on. He owned X in the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah, that's what happens when you're scrolling through Twitter. Sorry, X. I mean,
X. Yeah. Well, you do X. We watch TikTok videos.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll see. I mean, realistically, if I have privacy concerns about TikTok, and now I have them about X, I mean, maybe I'll just join TikTok for the crack,
Might as well. It's a lot of
fun. I've got lots of time, right?
All right. Speaking of projects that are in the incubator phase, did you see what I just did there?
See that?
Very nice.
Very good.
Chaos Mesh is also part of is a CNCF project, is in the incubation phase, and that's going to be our 10 minutes tech for today. So, in all fairness, the demo, how it got together, was quite chaotic. I did a lot of sessions on Azure Chaos Studio, which is the managed Azure implementation of not of Chaos Mesh, because Azure Chaos Studio does a lot more. It also allows you to inject faults into VMs, key vault. I mean, you can like make a secret disappear from key vault, that kind of stuff. But it also has an implementation for Azure Kubernetes Service, which leverages Chaos Mesh, but they have a nice add-on for that, which installs a lot of stuff on your cluster for you. Now, us being very cloud native and cloud agnostic, I thought, let's not do the whole Azure thing. I've got an AKS cluster, but let's just install Chaos Mesh, which works out of the box really well, but you need to deal with all of permissions and not make some other rookie mistakes like I did this morning, which was a bit dumb. But no, we got it together. And I mean, hey, if it fails, we fix it. That's the beautiful thing about live demos.
Mm-hmm.
So let's put my screen on the screen. All right, so here's my command line. Karl, for you, I have a namespace with a Hello World app, and that namespace is called not default namespace.
I'm glad to see you learned your lesson from last week.
Yeah, I don't ever want to go through that again. So I've got a Hello World. It's just the AKS Hello World one that's on the learn.microsoft. And then if we take a look at what's running, we have a website running here. No DNS, just welcome to Azure Kubernetes Service. It works. But then, Chaos Mesh project incubation phase. What does it do? It provides you with the tools to do chaos engineering. Became really popular back in the day with Netflix. I think they did a lot of blog posts about how they do chaos engineering. But basically, what you want to do is test the resiliency of your environment. You want to test the resiliency, in this case, of your Kubernetes environment. If something goes down, if a pod restarts, if something crashes, is your solution still running, or do you need to manually fix it? It's not just the technical testing of resiliency, it's also to test your processes. Let's say you've got multiple teams, you've got an ops team, maybe you even got a first-line support team that needs to detect faults and do some alerting. Will they respond timely? So it's also a way to audit your process. In all fairness, the first time you're ever going to do chaos engineering, stay clear from production environments. Just stay clear of it. You don't want to inject a fault into production without knowing that it's resilient enough to deal with it, because you will have a customer on the phone. When it progresses, when your chaos engineering process matures, yes, it'd be good to do it in production to make sure that whatever you deploy to production, is resilient enough. It could even be part of your integration testing, of your deployment test, anything. That's what it's good at. But you do kind of want to announce stuff. I mean, you don't want to have a CTO or senior management walking into the office going, "Did we do a chaos experiment, or is stuff really down?" You want to know. One could say that if you're senior management and you walk into the office and you ask about downtime and you see people jumping out the window, then it might be a failed chaos experiment and someone did a boo-boo. You don't want that. So you want to do, I'd like to say, chaos engineering with some sort of surgical precision. You don't just want to grab all the experiments you can get. Like, hey, let's break DNS, let's break a pod, let's inject HTTP errors, let's do everything at the same time. You don't want to do that. I mean, well, if it's Friday afternoon before your holiday and you've had enough, then you might want to give it a try, but you're not going to make a lot of friends. You do want to, pinpoint where you want to do that testing. So Chaos Mesh can be installed on your cluster, chaosmesh.org. You can install it with Helm. You can install it on AKS, or you can do it on GCP, you can do it on AWS, you can do it literally anywhere on-prem. It runs anywhere. It's just installs on Kubernetes. You can inject faults by just using the YAML. It also comes with the dashboard. My dashboard here is very non-persistent, like very non-persistent. You can have a PVC and some MySQL or something else to have a persistent dashboard. Also to publish it properly. Right now I'm doing port forwarding. I just said don't do the default namespace, and now I do port forwarding. So I'm guessing I do something non-best practice every show. At least I try to. But we got the dashboard. It's a very nice dashboard. I showed it. Here we go again. I showed it to Richard this morning. We were quite impressed. I never used the dashboard before this. I either did AKS Chaos Studio on Azure, or I did it through the YAML. But I thought, I screwed up my experiment this morning, so I thought maybe the dashboard can help. So that's how I ended up with the dashboard. It was never the plan to demo the dashboard, but hey, we have a dashboard. What we can do in the dashboard is a creative experiment. I'm just being honest. Right?
Very chaosy.
Very chaosy this morning. We're just going to do a very simple experiment. I could just click New Experiment, inject into Kubernetes. You can see I can even inject AWS faults if I've got my cluster running on Kubernetes. I can do something like stop EC2, restart EC2, detect your volume. Obviously, be careful with that. GCP, same thing. We also can stop a node, reset a node, make a disk disappear. If you want to do the Azure Kubernetes, just install Azure or just configure Azure Chaos Studio. It will allow you to do much more than just that. We can do HTTP faults, for example. Make sure that whenever I go to my website, it will return HTTP code of my liking, or it will inject a delay of 5 seconds. So how does my ops team respond to an issue in latency? Mm-hmm. That's something you can test. Network attack, you can stress the network, you can stress the pod, make sure it pushes through all the limits and resources that you've configured. You can go above and beyond. We're going with the most simple one. In this case, it's a pod failure. So I just click pod failure, and then it completes that step for me. And I have my pods running in the not so default namespace. And then eventually I'll have to probably refresh because I have a temporary token. I broke it. Here we go. It's chaos. I broke it. Now it'll be fine. So what I want to do is inject a fault into a pod, which means that the pod will not be available. I want to configure that for an amount of time. So for instance, I don't want to be that pod to be available for 30 seconds if I'm not running a replica set. Obviously, that's going to be a problem. I think I really broke my dashboard, so we're going to have to fix that. See, here we go, live demos. Live demos. Oh, I see what happened here.
Did your port forward drop?
Shut up,
yes.
Richard.
This is why you don't use port forward.
It's a demo.
Yeah.
We were gonna do a pod fault, pod failure. I think right now we can select this, and then will it autocomplete? Look, it will autocomplete. I have my labels and selectors. And in case someone was asking, yes, my port forward dropped.
Nice.
It'll never happen again. That's the next one.
Because you're not using port forwarding ever again, right?
Yeah.
I kind of have to say that for some specific debugging stuff, I do tend to do it sometimes. Even Richard does, don't lie.
Yeah, for some troubleshooting.
We'll call this Cloud Native Weekly Fault, which is just the metadata for the chaos experiment is going to run. And we're going to say in the namespace, not default namespace, do AKS Hello World 1, which is the label that's on my pod running currently. I can set the mode to all to random one fixed number, or fixed percentages. So for example, if I'm pointing this to my replica set instead of to my specific pod, I can say I want 75% of all the pods in that replica set to have an error. So then we can, see how that works. I can set a duration, so I can do 180 seconds, which means that the fault will be injected for 180 seconds. And then all I have to do is click submit, and I click submit again, and you can see it starts running. So it says successfully update records of resource. Before it does this, it will say injecting. That step usually is very fast, unless you're doing a very big experiment. Then injecting can take a while. I've got a definition here, so the YAML version of this I can download it. So if I don't want to write it from scratch, to be honest, if you go to the Chaos Mesh website, it's got lots of examples. So you probably don't ever need to download this. But if you're doing something more complex and you want to repeat it over and over again and not use the dashboard, then this will definitely help you. So what should happen is at some point, and you can already see it's loading, this will be down for 180 seconds. And yes, that's panic. Don't panic.
No, don't panic.
Don't panic. We got this. But let's see what happens. If you, depending on the experiment that you have, different things can happen. So the vault is not really breaking your existing container image or doing anything to that. What it's doing is, if we look at this, we see that it restarted about 39 seconds ago. We want to be quick before the experiment ends. But if we describe pod and then in the not default namespace, what we can see is that it actually just replaced the container image with a pause image. So that's what it did. It just made the service within the pod unavailable. The pod is still there. All of it was restarted with a different container image. And that's what it does. So this will be there for 180 seconds, and then it will go back to your normal Hello World example in this case. So that's a clever way to do it. But in terms of troubleshooting, there's not much to troubleshoot on the pod here, right? So if this happened, this is a way to test, hey, how resilient is my environment? What if a pod drops? Is my solution still running? This is when you will learn, hey, I built something, I want to push it to production. Someone does a Chaos Mesh experiment, and I will probably walk into the office and smack you around the ears and go, why did you not use replica sets? But it's, so this will eventually update again. And then the page will be available again.
Yeah, so I mean, you're going to want to use this to to test various resiliency types and resiliency configurations for your application. But I've been reading, as anybody that knows me recently, I've been reading the Phoenix project book, and it talks about how their teams start doing drills, fire drills almost, of incidents, and so they know how to deal with them, how to react to them. So can you see this sort of tooling then being used for drilling your SRE teams, your DevOps teams?
Most definitely. I think in most cases that is probably the better use case than just technically testing how resilient your configuration is, because as we know, most problems or most crashes, most downtime is most often caused by human error. I think that's also in the Phoenix project in the book. There was also a great research by Forrester back in the day that showed some of this. I think that would probably be the best use case. How do departments respond? How do you fix it quickly? Even in terms of business continuity, do you trigger your communication to your customers? Hey, we know this is going to take for a longer period. We need to inform people. Do we initiate a DR scenario? There's all kinds of choices to be made after this happens. But it's very easy to use. You just saw it. It's very easy to configure. But through the dashboard, you can do much more. You can configure workflows. I mean, if I want to create a workflow, do I want stuff to run serial or in parallel? I mean, do I want to inject, a pod fault, but at the same time make DNS unavailable or increase network latency between pods? I can do that as well. And you, like I said, you can go above and beyond. You can even, I mean, if you really, really have an issue internally and you are not big friends with other departments, you can even schedule this. You can even schedule this to run tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. when you just left for your summer holiday. I mean, why not?
I have a feeling that this live stream may be using evidence soon. Wesley. Are you due to go on holiday anytime soon?
No.
I am.
But yeah, it's it's you can do a lot with the dashboard itself, but always the best thing is to export it to YAML or start with YAML from scratch from the website, and do it through the normal way of configuring Kubernetes. If we look at the experiments now completed, which means that if we describe that pod again, we can see that it's now running on the other image again. So that's what Chaos Mesh does for you. If we go back here, we should be able to refresh and it should be up and running again. So
very cool.
What's good to know though is that you need to configure Chaos Mesh properly, because if you configure the wrong things and you set up your experiments wrong, you can break your cluster or you can break the configuration. I mean, a pod can remain looping or deleting or in whatever state you don't want it to be. So that's what the dashboard helps you with as well. It's got good error logging. But,
sounds like you may have experienced that.
I just want to make it difficult. So the thing here is when you do AKS and you do Chaos Studio, which I've done in the past, it will configure a lot of permissions for you as well. But for instance, if you want to inject something other than a pod fault, so the more complex things where you really need access to the pod, the container, and the container runtime on that node, you need to set up the right permissions. Chaos Studio on AKS does that for you. If you do it through Chaos Mesh, you need to make sure that the namespace has the annotation, so Chaos Mesh knows I am allowed to inject faults into resources in this namespace. You need to set up the right permissions for networking, allowed to access the node, allowed to access the networking. There's a lot of, permissions to be configured, which I'd have to say was kind of annoying when I did it this morning without Chaos Studio. But it also means that there's a lot of granularity in the permissions when it comes to Chaos Mesh, which means that that's very good. I cannot stress enough how very good that is, because that means you're not going to accidentally running types of experiments that maybe your networking team doesn't want you to run, that kind of stuff. You have to think about what permissions you apply. That's good. And important note, if you're running containerd, you have to tell Chaos Mesh upon installing that your container runtime is containerd, because in my case, it defaulted to Docker this morning, which was fairly annoying, but the dashboard helped. The port forwarding helped me figure that out.
Very cool.
The dashboard did. But no port. I get it. I'll never do it again. So yeah, that was a small introduction to Chaos Mesh. Well, you could talk about this for probably a couple of hours. It's something I'd like to see in more dev testing environments as well. Hey, we've got a new container image, or we've got a new version of our application. We're making a significant infrastructure change. These are the tests we run every time we publish a new version or we deploy something new. I mean, why not? It's very valuable. I see that as a good use case.
And because it's YAML based, you could easily put it inside your pipeline as part of your release process and everything. So that's quite cool.
Yeah.
I think we need to use this more often. It's very underrated, if you ask me.
Yeah.
I mean, do you think many companies are out there are using this sort of tooling to drill their SRE and their DevOps teams on how? Because if you don't drill, and you don't learn from running these faults, then you're going to take longer to solve a fault if it happens in real life or in production or whatever. So, I mean,
I think it's part of a more natural role and maybe organic process that last couple of years we spent a lot of time, learning about Kubernetes, learning about containers, being comfortable deploying bigger environments, and it's kind of the same thing with security, right? We built the whole thing, we're happy that it runs stable. Oh crap, we need to think about security. This is kind of the same thing. I think there's obviously plenty companies using it already. I'm not sure to what degree, but I do expect companies to use this more and more as they mature in their Kubernetes and container journey. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome.
All right. That was my one. What are we going to talk about next week?
Maybe Linkerd. Maybe. Unless something cool happens, and then we pick that. But yeah, we should definitely have a think, because service meshes are quite important if you get it done right. So yeah.
So
we'll see.
we have provisionally selected Linkerd as our next subject then.
Awesome.
Yes.
All right. Karl, do you have any last words on this show as a 39-year-old?
No, because I'm going to be 39 next week too. Definitely.
Not on Thursday, right? Yeah.
And the week after, and the week after that, yeah.
For the entirety of the next year, I will still be 39.
Right.
So,
mate, you're gonna be the mature one in this group from then on.
Hey, rumors of me turning 40 are greatly exaggerated. Don't believe what you hear. But yeah, I mean, great demo, Wesley. Check out Chaos Mesh and consider using tooling like this or similar tooling to drill your ops teams, or your SRE or platform teams in how to manage outages and how to manage issues like that in your environment. Because the more you drill your teams, the more efficient and better at solving these issues, the quicker they'll be. Because they'll be used to seeing, they'll know the telltale signs, they'll know where to go. So it'll be faster. Your time to resolution will drop considerably with well-drilled operations and DevOps teams. So it's my recommendation. And final words on Cloud Native Weekly as a 39-year-old.
Very nice. Very nice words. I was just thinking we could easily integrate this into like training platforms as well. So when you starting out off with Kubernetes, you need to start learning how to troubleshoot it. Run one of these in the background without them realizing it, and let them fix it. It's quite a good training method.
I think I also saw some chatter on the CNCF Slack that some people are having the same opinion on that. So that's I think that's a very good way to go about training. But then the challenges come when you replace something with a parse image. But then again, in terms of training, if someone is able to detect that, hey, the image changes the wrong image, then
I mean, you showed how to detect that straight into the logs or straight into the events with kubectl describe. So it's immediately visible. So it's very powerful, I think, for a training or for reducing or sharpening those reactions.
Definitely.
Now, what we could do is see if we can change that parse image to something else and show something like you've been compromised to really stress out the department.
Yeah,
I'm just saying. I'm just thinking out loud here.
We don't want to be responsible for any heart failure or similar. So,
all right. Well, we're already up on time. That went faster than I expected. Yeah, next week, provisionally, Linkerd, maybe something else.
Yep.
We'll see.
Happens.
Never know. Thank you all for joining.
Chaos.
Could be chaos. All right. Have a good day, everyone.
See you, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
See you later.
Bye.
Ciao, Hans.